Okay, Avengers, who's ready for game night? And so it was written in the book of Marvel that one day there would come a film unlike any other, that would proceed to put a sock in the mouth of everyone who refuses to shut up about feeling superhero fatigue. May geek culture live long and prosper. Amen. Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgi, your guide to all things geeky, and hey, have you ever complained about superhero films? I'm sure you have. We all have at some point. Have you ever looked at the current state of superhero films and said to yourself, this is the problem with these movies. This is the problem with Marvel specifically. These films are too silly. They all end the same. They all feel the same. None of them take anything seriously. None of the characters ever talk. There's no motivation. There's no depth. Have you ever said any of that? I'm sure you have, or you probably know someone who has. So if you have, then do yourself a favor. Head down to the old cinema this weekend, get yourself a big bag of popcorn, go see Civil War, and then kindly shut your pie hole because, oh my god, was this the film that we needed? Now you might want to see this film, but you're wondering, what's it all about? Well, don't worry because I'm going to tell you. It's about when a street-level superhero decides to take on one of the world's most powerful superheroes after a destructive battle forces the world governments to come together and demand that these superheroes answer for what they've done. This all leads up to a climactic battle where a villain might be pulling the strings in the background, and throughout the course of this film, we see guest appearances by almost every single other superhero in the cinematic universe, including the cinematic debut of a fan-favorite character who comes from a mythical city who ends up stealing the whole movie. But this one's good! Okay, let's go ahead and address the big, dark, brooding elephant in the room, which is that, yes, this movie is going to be compared a lot to Batman vs. Superman, and I know there's a lot of fans out there who are going to be saying, oh, that's just the Marvel fans picking on DC. Why can't you just review this movie all on its own? Because honestly, you can't. This movie is so similar to Batman vs. Superman, not just in that premise that I just gave you, but in its tone, in its plot points, in its mission statement, in specific scenes, in its motivations, that the only way you could talk about this film without ever once bringing up Batman vs. Superman is if you just haven't seen Batman vs. Superman. Seriously, no spoilers, this entire review is spoiler-free, but I do have a spoiler-filled discussion up. It goes up at the same time as the review, so that way you guys don't have to wait. You can click on it right there if you want to go and watch it. There you go. Alright, but for the rest of this review, there are no spoilers, but just as an example of what I'm talking about, one of the dumbest things from Batman vs. Superman is incredibly similar to something that happens towards the end of this film. And I don't mean in a, oh, well, yeah, I guess if you interpret it like that, it could be similar. No, it's totally in the same ballpark. And yet, while it was profoundly dumb in Batman vs. Superman, it is jaw-droppingly stunning in this movie. It's almost like Disney got an early copy of the script for Batman vs. Superman and then went, alright, take out a highlighter and go through this baby and find everything that needs to be corrected, and then we take that and turn it into a movie. But okay, I go into those similarities way more over in the spoiler talk. Remember, you can click on that if you want to see it, but I did just have to bring this up because I knew this was going to be like Batman vs. Superman. You knew it was going to be like Batman vs. Superman. I just had no idea how similar it was going to be. And yes, if you're going to review this film after you have reviewed that other film, you do kind of have to bring it up, because when you see a film try to achieve something and succeed, when a month ago you saw something else try to achieve that exact same thing and fail, it does make you look at the one that succeeded and go, oh wow, that's kind of even more impressive now. It does influence the way that you look at this film. I had to bring that up. So there, I said it. Can we now just move on from this and never mention that film again? Good, alright, great. So alright, yes, this film is excellent because for the longest time people have been asking for a superhero film that actually takes things a little bit more seriously, actually does address some of the issues in the world and some of their influence on the world. And I would argue that we have had films like that before, but we've never had one that did it this well before. I made a joke in the opening of this video about how many people keep saying that, oh, people are about to get tired of superhero films, that bubble is about to burst. Any day now people are going to start having superhero fatigue. And most of that is just clickbait material. It's mostly just people saying, oh, that thing that you love might be about to go away forever. Read this article and click through all our ads to find out why. But there is some legitimacy to that argument. If you keep giving people the same thing over and over and over again, then they are going to get tired of it and it will eventually just fade away and die. However, this film progressed superhero movies more than any other film franchise since The Dark Knight. This movie addressed all those issues that I see people constantly complaining about in superhero films, and for all those people out there who keep saying, oh, I'm getting so tired of this big giant shared universe, it's getting so hard to follow. This film makes the perfect argument for why you need a shared universe, for why a shared universe works, for how over the course of multiple films in multiple different franchises, you can actually build up storylines and tensions and characters so that when they eventually all meet, it is multiplied exponentially. Trust me, this film just bought us another 5 years before anybody can bring up the superhero fatigue argument. But okay, what this movie is about is that the United Nations come in and say, hey, you guys, you've been causing way too much destruction, and we get that you were not the bad guys. You were fighting the bad guys, and we appreciate that, but you guys have been reckless. You don't understand the ramifications of all the destruction that you have caused. And I've always said that one of the things that I love about the Marvel films is that they are kind of goofy. They are kind of silly. And the reason why I like that is because then when they come in and say, hey, the Avengers saved everyone in this area, no matter how unbelievable that is, I can buy it because this film is not meant to be taken that seriously. But this is the movie where they come in and go, you guys are living in a fantasy world. And then it shows you cell phone footage from every single one of Marvel's big destructive battles, and you actually see it from the ground level. You actually see all the people who suffer from these battles, and I don't just mean from the villains. There are moments in which you see people getting crushed or getting hurt from things that the Avengers could have prevented. Or you see the Avengers just flying away like, yay, we saved the day! And then all these people getting crushed without the Avengers doing anything, and you feel it. You would have to be a machine to not feel that. Sorry, Vision. And let me just say to everybody out there who thinks that I have a problem with the darker, grittier, real-world version of superheroes, I'll admit, I love the bright, jokey, colorful, hopeful versions of superheroes. I love going to the movies to see those versions of superheroes. That doesn't mean I have a problem with the dark, gritty, real-world version of superheroes. I mean, hell, I have praised Daredevil and Jessica Jones non-stop. Those are great examples of that world. I have a problem when the real-world take on superheroes is done horribly, and so often it is. So often the people making the real-world version of superheroes believe that the real world means no colors, no one shows emotions, no one ever smiles, and everyone just talks like this, deep in thought, staring off into the distance. That's not the real world. It's not. I do not have a problem with real world take on superheroes. I have a problem when that is done poorly, and so often it is done poorly. This movie is not done poorly. This is a movie that realizes that yes, you can have a film where you talk about real world issues. This is a film that realizes you can show the ramifications and the consequences of these big superhero brawls that we've all enjoyed. And it realizes if you treat those issues with respect, then it will work. It's also a film that realizes that real world does not mean everybody is constantly sad. It realizes the real world does have joy, it does have jokes, and honestly, if you want to make a serious, dramatic film, here's the secret. You need that joy. You need those jokes, because you cannot just have 150 minutes of someone standing there going, what am I even meant to do? should I really save these people? Because if that is the one tone that you get for 150 minutes, it gets dull. It gets really dull. You need those bright, colorful, joyful moments to come in to break up that tone, so that way, when it gets dramatic and contemplative all over again, it feels big again. And a lot of the drama in this film actually comes from the characters themselves. Listen, I liked Age of Ultron. I did. I gave it a good review, and I stand by that review. However, one of the big problems that I did have with that film was that no one ever talked to each other. They just ran from one action scene to the next, and because of that, it was really hard for me to get a sense of anyone's character, especially from the new characters in that film. However, in this film, it starts off with a big, impressive action scene, and then after that, it is a long time before you get any more action scenes. And do you know why? Because when the government comes in and tells you you have to start working for them or else we're gonna put you in jail, that's big. That is a big issue, and it's not an issue that you just punch. It's an issue that you have to talk, and this is a film where people are not afraid to just talk with each other. And not just Cap and Tony, you see everybody coming together and actually discussing this issue, and it's a great way to get to actually know these characters. We actually get characters like Vision and Scarlet Witch who didn't really get a lot of time to flesh out their characters in the last film, but here they actually do have time to develop. They have time to grow. And we also get characters like Rhodey, who throughout all these movies has basically just been Tony's pal. In this film, he actually does get to stop and go, no, this is why James Rhodes, actually does believe in this. This is why I'm doing this. Not why Tony's doing it. This is why my character, is doing this. And goes, oh, now I understand you more as a character. Now you do stand out more. And that's the most important thing about this film, because when you allow these characters to actually flesh themselves out and allow them to actually grow and develop and show off who they are as characters, you realize the Registration Act doesn't even matter. Everything that is going to go down this film, especially towards the end, it's stuff that's been building up between these characters throughout all these films. It does not matter what caused it, it was coming. And I have met so many people who have said that there's no way this movie can be as good as the comic because the comic had so many more heroes going up against each other than there are in this film. And to those people, I just like to say, did you actually read the comic? Listen, I understand it's cool to watch all these heroes punch each other, but you know what's more cool? When you actually have people who you understand going up against each other. This film fully realizes that it is far more important to have 10 characters who you know fighting each other than 100 who is like, oh, okay, I think I know that person, and I think at some point in this book that one had one line of dialogue, and then there's 90% of the people in the background who are just there because we needed someone punching someone in the background, so yeah, I guess this works. This nails every single one of these characters, and because of that, when they actually do fight, you feel it. And speaking of comparisons to the book, if you read the Civil War comic, then you know that one of the biggest problems with it is that question of whose side are you on? Because that was the big pitch. Who are you siding with, Captain America or Iron Man? But if you actually read the book, there was no real choice. Iron Man hardly ever makes his case in that book other than just, hey man, we have no other choice. And throughout the course of that series, he did so many malicious, flat out evil things that it made him almost impossible to root for. But in this, you actually do get to hear both sides. Both sides actually do have an argument. There really is no villain. And that is the most amazing thing about this movie. The fact that, yeah, both these guys kind of have a point. Neither one of them is really wrong. It is amazing to me how they took such a screw up as Iron Man's depiction in the Civil War comic and actually redeemed it in here, and not only redeemed it, but actually made it make sense. If you look at Iron Man's progression throughout Iron Man 2, Avengers, Iron Man 3, and Age of Ultron, you can totally buy how he went from that guy we saw in the first Iron Man movie to now where he is on the side of this Registration Act. Now, I've been praising this film pretty much non-stop, but it does actually have some problems in there. It's not a perfect film. It has some perfect moments, but it's not a perfect film. It does have flaws, and I do need to address them. And the first thing I have to address actually is this Registration Act, or as it's called in the movie, the Sokovia Bill. Now, I don't want to just stand here and say, oh, it was better in the comics, because I kind of just got done addressing that. However, when it comes to the registration bill, it kind of was done better in the comics. Because in the comics, it said, if you have powers, you have to register with us. No way getting out of it. You have to register with the government if you have powers. We have to have your secret identity. However, in this one, it basically said the Avengers have to work for the UN. And it kind of left me going, so are all the other superheroes okay? And what if these guys just quit the Avengers? What then? Are they still in trouble? Are they still going to be arrested? I mean, if Tony's team just stays and they become the Avengers, and then Cap says, well, alright, we're going to go and be the Defenders, and then they go off and do their own thing, are they in trouble? It just didn't feel like that big of a threat to me. In fact, I didn't even really get a feeling of when this thing started. In the comics, you had a countdown clock. You knew at midnight you are going to jail if you are not registered. In this one, when suddenly some armed guards show up and go, alright, come with us, I was like, oh, so did it pass? Did this already happen? Oh, okay, I guess it's happening now, alright. And that brings me to the second problem, and it pains me to say this, but Spider-Man. I know everyone out there has been praising Spider-Man non-stop in this film, and I'll talk about him a little bit more later. However, I did have a big problem with him, which is that it really feels like there is no reason for him to be in this movie. As I said, in the comics, the Registration Act said everyone with powers. We are coming to get you unless you register. Here, it really does just feel like it's localized only to the Avengers, so it feels like Spider-Man is not affected at all by this. And the way that they introduce him, it really is just kind of like Tony just shows up. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess he's here now. Don't get me wrong, I fully understand what a big deal it is for Marvel to finally have, I almost said Sony. No, never again. I do realize what a big deal it is for Marvel to finally have Spider-Man back. However, it does kind of feel like they put him in this movie simply because it was like, hey guys, we got him back. Here he is. We're just gonna put him in this movie now. It didn't really feel like he was necessary to this film. I wish I could get into it more, but the spoiler review right there. Go ahead. Alright. Next thing, and lastly, Agent 13, Sharon Carter, she was advertised all over the place. They made it seem like she was going to be one of the big heroes of this film. We saw all those pictures of her standing next to Cap and his whole team. We saw t-shirts, we saw toys of her from this movie coming out. We saw pictures of her in costume. Yeah, that don't ever happen. Yeah, they drop her about halfway through this movie, and this isn't just me coming in and going, oh, well, we saw stuff and we're not getting it. No, it actually does feel like this movie needed more of her. I did like what I saw of her in here, but as I said, she's just gone halfway through this film, and I couldn't help but watch the rest of this movie going, she could have helped out on this. I could have seen places where they could have put her. In fact, very, very mild spoiler, but let's be honest, you all already know this. Sharon Carter and Steve Rogers actually do start to form a relationship in here, but when it actually happens, it kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere because they just didn't have enough time together. I mean, if you look at their interactions in Winter Soldier and in this one, then I guess it works, but just in this one film alone, it does not feel like they had nearly enough time together. So yeah, that's another negative for this film, is that Sharon Carter really does kind of feel like she's wasted in this film. Well, I don't really want to say wasted, as I said, what she was in was good, but man, this film could have done more with her. So yes, those were some of my problems with this film. Now here's all the good things. Commence fanboy mode. Yes, I've already talked about so many things that made this film great. I've talked about the characters, I've talked about the story, I've talked about so many other things that were constant and consistent throughout this film that kept making it a truly great film. However, there were also tons of other things just scattered around this film that were so good, I can't help but stop right now and point them out and go, damn, that was amazing. Now, the first thing that was amazing was Spider-Man. Yes, I just got done criticizing that there was no reason for him to be in this movie. However, less than a minute after he got on screen, did not care. Listen, I'm a diehard Spidey fan, and within a minute, Tom Holland proved to me this is the best Spider-Man we have had on screen. Before he even gets in costume, he was nailing it that well. And listen, as I said, I am a diehard Spider-Man fan. So much so that I have loved all the other Spider-Man films that have come out immediately after I saw them. Even that crappy Amazing Spider-Man 2, after I left the theaters, I was like, yeah, they did it. They finally got him. So, just to check and make sure that I'm not fanboying out here, and that's why I think that he was so great in this film, I decided to invite an unbiased third party onto the set.
Best Spider-Man ever.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, this is indeed the best Spider-Man we've ever had, and I know that that's not just me fanboying out, because this is gonna sound really weird, but it's the only metaphor I could come up with that works. Hey kids, prepare for a life lesson from Professor Thorgi. One day, you're going to meet someone, and you're going to think you're in love. You're going to think it's great. You're going to think that they are the perfect person for you. And then it won't work out. And you're going to feel bad. And it's going to be kind of crushing. But then, one day, you will meet someone who you actually love. Not just think you love, but actually love. And the feeling that you get will be completely different from that feeling that you had before. And then all of a sudden you'll realize, oh, that wasn't love. That was infatuation. I didn't actually love that person, they just had A, B, and C. 3 things on my checklist of the person who I think I'm going to love, and so I just assumed it was love. But now that I have actually experienced that, I know what it feels like for real. That's kind of like what this is. The moment that I saw Tom Holland up there, and the moment that he started acting as Peter Parker, and the moment that I saw him as Spider-Man, I went, oh, that's actually what a good Spider-Man is like. What the hell did I ever see in you guys? Also, speaking of characters who are great in this film, Hawkeye. Everybody is talking about how great Cap is, how great Tony is, how great Spider-Man is, how great Black Panther is, and I will get to him in a moment. But Hawkeye, just speaking as a long-time Hawkeye fan, as someone who grew up thinking that Clint Barton was one of the coolest members of the Avengers, this felt so good to me to see Jeremy Renner actually being the Hawkeye that I knew. Listen, after the Avengers, a lot of people came out and said, yeah, Jeremy Renner, he was okay in that, but he wasn't Hawkeye, and honestly, I agree with you. He was not Hawkeye in that. He had some Hawkeye moments, but he was not the Clint Barton that I knew. However, in Age of Ultron, he was pretty Clint Barton-y. He had a lot of actual Clint Barton moments in that film, but people still came out and said, yeah, that's not Clint Barton. And I was like, I don't know, it seemed pretty Clint Barton to me, but I guess agree to disagree. However, after this film, especially after a certain exchange between him and Iron Man, if you are going to come out here and still say, yeah, that's not Clint Barton, you don't know Clint Barton. Listen, I'm glad that you guys have your Matt Fraction, Clint Barton gets beat up in every single issue and he's too incompetent to keep his own pants up version of Hawkeye. I'm glad that you got that. However, speaking as a lifetime Clint Barton fan, this was Clint Barton. This was the Clint Barton that I grew up with, and it felt so good to finally have him back. This concludes the rants only comic book fans will understand part of the show. And Black Panther, oh my god, did they nail Black Panther. They got him right in one. And they set up his upcoming film so well, I can't even comprehend a way that they could screw it up. And there are so many different sides to Black Panther. He is a very complex character, and yet they captured every single side of him. They got him exactly right. They captured the son who lives in his father's shadow. They captured the vengeful protector of Wakanda who possesses a mighty rage for anyone who messes with his family. And they also captured the humanitarian with a kind heart who does believe that life is sacred. They captured every single side to that character in this movie, and it's not even his movie. That's like a magic trick to me. I don't know how you did that. And just real quickly, before I move away from the characters, Falcon and Bucky, I need those guys to have a movie together because their interactions were some of the best in this entire film. And the action, dear God, the action. This movie has easily the best fight scene in any comic book film, maybe in any big special effect film out there. Everything you could have hoped for when you saw that trailer is in this, and yet it's even better. They truly captured every single one of these characters' powers, but they didn't just show off their powers. They showed off their personality, and that's the most important thing. You can't have these characters just going in there and throwing powers at each other. Every single one of these characters fight differently because of who they are. Black Panther does not fight the same as the Falcon. War Machine does not fight the same as Ant-Man. Spider-Man does not fight the same as Black Widow. And not because they each have different powers, but because they're different people. And you get to see that on display, and you also get to see these characters switching partners, constantly going from one enemy to the next, so you get to see how each of them would actually face off against each other. I would continue and keep talking about this fight scene, but honestly, there is no way any words could fully do it justice. You have to see it yourself to truly believe how remarkable this moment was. And the villain. One of the biggest complaints that people have about Marvel films is that nobody thinks the villains are all that good, which I would kind of argue against. I think that Marvel has had some pretty good villains, but I will admit a lot of their villains have been flat. This is easily one of the best villains that we have had, not in Marvel films, but in any comic book film. He's up there. He's in the top 5, because there was a moment in this film in which I was like, oh, are they just gonna have him be some chaos agent who just skips over his motivation entirely? And then you get his motivation. And his motivation is more emotional than pretty much any of the heroes' motivations in this film. It made it really hard for me to look at this guy as a villain. It made me look at him like, yeah, you're just a person. You're just somebody who went out there to do what you felt was right. And honestly, when you make your argument, I can't really say that you're wrong too. It's one thing to have a Captain America versus Iron Man film in which you look at those two guys and go, yeah, I don't really think either of these guys are wrong. It's another thing to have a villain thrown in there and for you to look at him and go, yeah, he's not really that wrong either. He went about it in the wrong way. He did lots of evil things along the way. He lost his mind along the way. But his motivation and what spurred this all on, it's one of the most touching things in this film. And lastly, I just have to say, this review, it's going long. It's going very long, but there's a reason for that. It's because this is a big movie, and there is a lot to cover in it. There is so much happening in this film. So many story elements, so many characters, so many little tiny details that need to be talked about. However, this film never once feels like it's losing anything. It never once feels like it's being overwhelmed by itself. It never once feels jumbled. And there's no secret to that. It's just really good filmmaking and a damn fine movie. And so, because of that, I have to give this movie my score of 9 out of 10.
Good day, sir!
I know that might sound like an odd rating, but hear me out on this. This movie was so good, it made me go from happy all the way back around to angry again, because when you have a film that is this freaking good, you can't help but look at some other people in groups out there and just go, what the hell is your problem? So I've got a bag full of
Good day, sir!
and I'm going to hand out 9 of them right now. Number 1, Warner Brothers for saying that audiences wouldn't be smart enough to understand Batman vs. Superman. This film tackled many of the exact same issues, did so much more than your movie did, and audiences loved it. So,
Good day, sir!
Number 2, Fox for not giving the Fantastic Four back. Yes, when you look at this film and you realize how well Marvel handled Spider-Man, better than Sony ever did, and you realize Marvel knows what to do with its own characters, and you realize that Fox still isn't going to give the Fantastic Four back, and instead they're just going to keep holding on to it and making bad films that will continue to lose them money, yeah, I have to give them one of these.
Good day, sir!
In fact, while I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna give Fox another one for the X-Men. Yeah, you've made some good X-Men films, but seriously, none of them were as good as Spider-Man was in this film. So,
Good day, sir!
in fact, while I'm thinking about Spider-Man, Sony, shame on you for not giving him back sooner. Yes, you did give him back, and thank you for that. That was very nice of you, and we all appreciate it, but not until after you had dragged his name through the mud with those 2 awful, amazing Spider-Man films. So I'm going to give you a
Good day, sir!
And just to make sure that you don't take any extra credit for Spider-Man's future successes, I'm also going to throw in a
So you get nothing!
Next up at number 5, anybody who said that Tom Holland shouldn't be Spider-Man. Okay, not everyone. There were a bunch of people out there who were upset at the casting of Tom Holland simply because it was another white dude cast as Spider-Man, and in all honesty, you have a very good point. One of the biggest problems with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that there are just way too many white dudes running around, and yeah, I fully understand why you would be upset. at Tom Holland being cast as Spider-Man. You do have a valid reason for being upset about that. However, to everybody else who was upset about him simply because he looked bland and you had never heard of him before, this kid was perfect.
Good day, sir.
And number 6, to anyone out there who keeps saying, oh, superhero fatigue, it's a thing. People are gonna get sick of superhero films any day now. Just you watch, it's gonna happen any day now. No, the superhero genre is not going away. It's doing what all successful genres do, evolving, changing, growing to meet new audiences and keep them coming back, and this film proves it.
Good day, sir.
And at number 7, to all those crazy dangerous loners out there who keep saying that Disney is actually secretly paying these critics to badmouth DC fans and praise their movies, what?
Good day, sir.
And to everyone out there who keeps saying you can't have a story that focuses on superheroes who are bright and shining and hopeful and full of fun and joy, and yet still tell a story with depth that means something, that actually tackles real issues, to everyone who keeps saying that, you've been proven wrong numerous times before, and I'm hoping that this movie will be the final nail in that argument's coffin.
You lose. Good day, sir.
And at number 9, Zack Snyder. Just because.
So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
But okay, that's it, everyone. The review is over with. Thank you for watching all of it. I know it was a long one, but in all honesty, it needed to be, because there's so much in this film that deserves to be talked about. It deserves all the praise that it's been getting, and you deserve to go and see it. Trust me, you've had a long week at work or school. You deserve to take a break and go and see this film, because I guarantee you, there are going to be people arguing that this is the best superhero film of all time. And you know something? They might be right. But okay, thanks again for watching, everyone. If you like this video, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. We do fun, geeky stuff every single week on this channel, and we always have reviews on the weekend. And this movie was so good, I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know right now. The rest of this month, it's going to be superhero month for the reviews. That's right, every single weekend, I'm going to be reviewing something superhero themed on this show. So if you have anything superhero related, whether it be a movie, a TV show, a game, anything like that, that you want to see me review, leave it in the comments down below. And make sure that you share this all around the web. We recently passed 5,000 subscribers, and that's incredible, and I thank every single one of you who have shared these videos. You're the ones who are helping to make this happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. However, we can't stop now. We have to keep pushing ahead. We have to keep reaching higher, and it depends on you guys sharing this around the web. So make sure that you share this on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook. I can't tell you to share it on Reddit, because apparently if you tell people to share your videos on Reddit, then Reddit will take it down. So this is not me telling you to share it on Reddit. Hold on, I've got something in my eye. Wink! But alright, that's it for me, everyone. Make sure you click on the videos at the end of this to see more from me, including that spoiler review that I mentioned. But for now, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!